Welcome back to Learn SKN, and today we're going to continue looking at the January 2025 Principles of Business POB Paper 2, right? We have done question 1 and question 2, and so today in this video we're going to do question number 3. And so you know what to do for when doing question number 4. You like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when Learn SKN drops question 4 and eventually question 5. All right, so let's just jump into question number 3. Seem very straightforward enough. All right, good. So Caribbean economies benefit significantly from the contribution of cottage industries. State 3 characteristics of cottage industry. So what exactly are these cottage industries? And so normally a cottage industry would be those tiny businesses that normally operate from maybe a home, maybe a community center, a church, etc. Well, let's just see what the textbooks say about them. So what characteristics are? Characteristics of cottage industry are as follows. They are home base. Production takes place in people's homes or local community centers and church halls. That's one characteristic, home base. They use mainly manual labor to complete production tasks. Use of machinery, tools, or other equipment, capital equipment, is often minimal and small scale. So in essence, they are saying it's normally hand done kind of production. Use your hands, right? If you're making something, using your hands, and the degree to which technology or equipment is used is very minimal, very small. Of course, being a cottage industry, the scale of production small. Again, next characteristic. They often rely on the use of local material, for example, seeds, fruits, vegetables, clay for pottery, cotton to produce hammocks and baby slings, leopard wool to produce various items such as bowls and spoons. So you have an idea now as to what the cottage industry entails. And so somebody might be making some, I don't know what y'all call them in the different countries, those, we call them suckers here, or frozen joy, where persons make juices and you freeze them and they sell them as a cold treat. So normally they would use the fruit or vegetables from the local village or town. Same way, you're making a smoothie, that kind of thing. You're making a little carrot cake, that kind of thing. You use coconut tart, whatever. You use the vegetables or fruits from the local economy. They produce a wide variety of mainly handmade products, including, so that's the next question we're going to answer, jams, cakes, and other items, spices, salts, clothing, fabric design, doing the whole batik thing where you tie-dye and that kind of stuff, crafted items, and musical instruments. So those are some of the characteristics of the cottage industry. And of course, we're saying state, so we're just stating them. Right now, part 2 to this question lists the three types of goods or services that are often produced within the cottage industry. And so we went through a few, right? Your jams, your jellies, your arts and craft, your little bracelets, the chain made from driftwood or whatever. You have your little ornaments, you sell to your tourists. When you come around services, it might be maybe babysitting service, even maybe landscaping service, because that's small if you operate from your home, those kind of things. So it's a little niche kind of market kind of goods that are produced within the cottage industry. So think about it, we're talking about a little smoothie, a little jam, a little jelly, maybe some special made knitting clothing, maybe even knitted ornaments, wood crafted ornaments, the little necklace or whatever you might make, jewelry, fashion jewelry. Those kind of things are created. Just think about things that people create from their home to sell, right? And then you have the answer for that one. They ask to list, so you just list 3 of them. All right, now we're on to B1, and it says state 2 advantages of small business operations, and then part 2 state 2 disadvantages of small business operations. So far so good. This question relatively easy, relatively straightforward. We're stating and we are listing, so we're basically recalling, right? We're recalling certain things. So this question is a very recall filled question, right? So we're going to look at the others later on. So let's back to it. Okay, so state 2 advantage of a small business. Of course, our textbook can help us here. This says state. So advantages: small business can usually be set up easily. One advantage, right? Just set up if one time, easy. So that's one advantage of a small business. It can be set up easily. You don't have to go through all the legal rigmarole. You don't have to go through all of the registration, this, registration, that, get that document. It's very simple, easy to set up. Right, that's one. They are able to respond quickly to changes in economic and market conditions. So, small business, when things change, demand for certain things drop or increase, because a small business doesn't have as much invested in equipment, specialized equipment and those kind of things, they can easily just pivot from one thing to the next, right? Imagine that you're a small business and maybe let's say you are producing certain kind of pastries, but then the market stop demanding that pastry, they're demanding something else. Let's say they want local drinks now. You could easily pivot to make local drinks because you haven't invested much in equipment to make those pastries. Next advantage. Next one. They are innovative and introduce new products and ideas. For the most part, small businesses, they tend to think outside the box. And so they would be... Remember, when you're a small business, you don't want to compete with the giants. And so you have to find creative ways of doing certain things and innovative ways of doing the same thing or a new way of doing something. And so they tend to be a lot more innovative, right? A lot of big businesses, they are set in their ways and they don't really come up with anything new, right? And so sometimes when a small business comes up with something new, the big businesses buy them over. Next advantage, they increase competition for larger businesses. Again, they want to look at a big business and say, okay, I can do this, but in a different way. And so all of a sudden, they are doing the same thing a large firm is doing, but in a different, more creative, more innovative way. And that can lead to competition for the bigger business. They increase consumer choice, right? So, we have the option of, instead of going to the large firm, the large business, I have an option. So if the large business treats you poorly, you can easily say, well, I'll take my business to the small firm who understands me, who speaks my language, that kind of thing. So at least you have that option. Of course, they provide local opportunities for employment and social development because normally they are set in a particular community, and so they can provide opportunities for that community to have persons employed within that area. And of course, they generate income for the owner. And then jumping into part 2 of this question, disadvantage of a small business now. They don't really have the in-depth skills and knowledge that a larger firm would have to be successful. So sometimes the business is so small that the manager has to do everything and they're not really versed in every single aspect of business. And so maybe the business might fail because of that. You may be a good producer, but a poor accountant, poor marketer, because you only have that access to that pool of knowledge and skills, right? So that's a downside right there. You don't have the professional staff to deal with all aspects of business. They're going to find it difficult to raise capital, of course. You want to raise some money, you're a small business, more than likely you're a sole trader, and so you normally have to tap into your personal financing to raise capital, and banks are not really willing to lend small businesses money that easily because they are riskier than a larger firm. So you have it difficult to get access to capital and financing. They lack resources necessary to offer a wide range of services or service a large number of customers. Normally when you're a small business, sometimes you don't market because if you start marketing and the demand for your goods explode, you can't keep up. And so you're not able, because you're small, you're not able to match the demand for your product. You're not able to service large customer bases because you're small. You don't have the resources, neither the capital resource or the manpower resource to carry out that level of demand. Small businesses may be unable to compete on cost or price with larger businesses. So if you're a small business doing the same thing as a large business and you want to go head to head with them, basically you might lose, right? Because you don't have what it takes to compete on cost or price with that larger firm. That is why you have to be creative and innovative to do the same thing but in a different way that might be more cost efficient, cost effective, or you can charge more because you have a premium because you're doing it on a personal level, that kind of thing. But if you can't go head to head with these larger firms, right? So that's those two parts of that one question B. 2 marks each. I gave you more than 2, so we are good to go. All right. C. Jerome operates a small fruit juice manufacturing business in Spice Town. Recently, he has seen the opportunity for growth of the business and has been considering expanding. state one way in which Jerome's business could grow internally. Of course, internal growth includes buying new equipment, investing in new equipment, and also, of course, hiring new employees. So you're growing internally, hiring new employees, and you're investing in new equipment. Apart from that, you can also, expand the actual premises in which you are doing your business. You might just break out and go into a larger space. So those are some internal ways in which they can grow. And then they ask for one way in which Jerome's business can grow externally. Of course, you speak to maybe you're merging with a larger company. There is where you can join two companies together. That's one way to grow externally. If you got the financial chops and the money, you can actually take over or acquire a next business. That's a next way to grow externally. Or you can team up with someone, joint venture. You come together and have a contractual agreement to, maybe I produce, you market, or you help me to export, that kind of thing. So you can have that joint venture to become a larger business. Or, as I said before, you can merge with another business, become a larger business. Or if you have that kind of money, you can buy out a smaller business and acquire it that way. So those are ways in which you can grow externally as a business. Alright, so far so good. Very simple. Explain the likely effect that expansion could have on organizational structure of Jerome's business. Of course, when you expand and you're getting more people in the organization, you can lose that personal touch you would have had with your customers and even with your staff, right? You can lose that personal touch. You as the manager, maybe you're on the lower level talking to your customers, talking to your workers, but when you expand now, it's a next layer of management between you and your customers, you and your personnel, and so communication can become a little bit more complicated and things like that. Even the controlling of the organization might become a little bit more difficult because you have more persons out there, and so the organizational structure can actually get a little taller as you have more and more layers of management, or even wider as you get more and more. The span of control expand because you have more departments now. So instead of 1-2 departments, you may have 1, 2, 3, 4, and so you can see how the organizational structure can change. You can get taller, you can get broader because of adding more personnel. Alright, so let's look at this structure here. So first, you might have a basic structure in the organization: the owner, sales clerk, receptionist. Then the business start growing, and then you have more complexities now. So you need a whole accounting department, you need a whole production department, you need a whole sales department now, and all of those have different roles, because as you grow, you expand, you get more workers, you get more orders, you have to now specialize and get persons specifically for certain things, and so your structure becomes broader, can become taller as you bring more and more personnel on board for that particular organization. Alright, so that's 3 marks. Alright, next one we're looking at here. Define the term linkage industry. Explain one backward or one forward linkage in which Jerome's business could engage. Alright, so what's a linkage industry exactly? So a linkage industry exists when one industry depends on the output of another industry for its own production or sale. So again, a linkage industry exists when one industry depends on the output of another industry for its own production or sale. So that's linkage industries right there as a definition. I know definitions are 2 marks, so that's 2 marks. Now the question here now, explain one backward or one forward linkage in which Jerome's business could engage. And so we know Jerome's business is what now? We go back up here to see what this business. Okay, so it's about a small fruit juice manufacturing business. Fruit juice manufacturing. So let's go. So what are 2 linkages, backward or forward? So backward linkage would be where Jerome can have some contractual agreement or can even acquire a farm, right? An orchard that actually produces the fruits that he needs for his juice manufacturing. So that's a backward linkage because you're moving from, the secondary to the primary. And so he's moving backwards, so he's able to link with a farm to get the fruits that he need, or he can buy a farm to get the fruits that he need to make his juices. A forward linkage now would be that he can now link with a hotel, link with a restaurant, link with supermarkets to sell his juices in those establishments, right? Or he can even get his own outlet to sell his goods now. So that's a forward linkage there. It become a service where he's selling this stuff on behalf of Jerome's business. So you can see how it can be backwards or forward in terms of the juice making industry, right? So 20 marks, very straightforward, very simple. Of course, the textbook can assist you with those answers, right? So the examples I'm here, where this person here making juice, and so the forward backward linkage will be back to the company that sells the whatever the raw material. Forward linkage is where they can basically sell this stuff to a next look at it more highlighted here, where let's say secondary industry, that's the person who processes the coffee bean in this instance. So your linkage would be with the farm to get the raw material backward, or forward to a barista restaurant to sell them the beans to make the coffee, right? So that's that. All right, so that's it for question number 3. As I said before, stay tuned for question 4 and 5. You know what to do: like, subscribe, and hit the bell to know when we drop the future questions. All right, so that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.